Hi, I'm Rita. Welcome back to my booktube channel, Life Worth Reading. Today I want to talk to you about the top 10 books that I still want to read before the end of the year. It is now mid-October, so is this possible for me? Probably not. If these were the only 10 books that I wanted to read before the end of the year, we could probably achieve that, but these are just 10 books that I do want to read and not all of the books that I'm planning on reading. So that is why this might not go so well, but it's still not the end of the year book tag. I'm going to do that later on in the month or beginning of November. But I wanted to talk to you about 10 books that I'm very excited to read soon and that I hope that I can achieve. And then in January we'll do a look back to this video and the 10 books that I picked to see if I did read them or not. I have some of the books here with me in physical form, but most of the books that I read are in ebook format, so that's mostly the books that I do want to read. I use SCRIBD for most of my reading, and if you're in Europe like I am, that's probably your best option because we do not have those amazing libraries. We don't have Libby, we don't have none of that. So if you are in Europe like me, SCRIBD is probably your best option. And I do actually have a link that will get you 2 months free on SCRIBD to start out. So you have 60 days to read freely, whatever you want, audiobooks and ebooks and documents. And I'm going to leave that in my description if you want to join using my link. This isn't sponsored, by the way. Anyone can have a referral link to SCRIBD. So I get a month free if you decide to join using it. So that's why I'm mentioning it. But yeah, this isn't sponsored or anything. Like, look at my subscriber count. This is not sponsored. Alright, so let's start with what is probably the most popular book on this list and probably the book that I'm reading the soonest, and that is obviously The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. This is a library copy. This is the Portuguese translation, so this is not the original one, but I mean, this is probably the most popular book of last year. This year it might be Babel by R.F. Kuang, but this book has been a phenomenon, okay? And I am excited to read this one. I don't know what I'm going to think of it because it is very polarizing. It is a very polarizing book. A lot of people love it. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people really hate this one. And since I haven't read anything else from this author before, I don't know where I'm going to fall. This is the Dark Academia darling of TikTok, of Bookstagram, and it is about 6 people, 6 kind of like, I don't know if they're like wizards. I think they're like kind of magician or wizards, and they are invited to join the Alexandria Society, and only one of them can stay. So it's a competition. The 6 of them are competing to join this very highly praised society. And I don't know, some people say that some of the POVs are very annoying because we do have 6 POVs, and if you don't like one of them, that can be really tough sometimes, and it's hard to do 6 likable and different POVs. I think the only other book that I can think of that has done that successfully, I'm not saying it's the only one, it's the only one that I can remember and the one that I have read, is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and I think it's really hard. Some people don't like some of the characters, and it's just hard to make 6 very different characters likable in each of their POVs. And so I don't know if this book will achieve that as well. But I do have, I was going to say high hope. I actually have no hope, as in I'm very neutral about this one. I have no idea if I'm going to like it or not, but I'll be vlogging my experience reading this. I'm actually going to start it this weekend, so this is the only one that I'm pretty sure that I'm going to definitely get out of the way. And I'm excited to see what I think, because if I like it, all the better, because the sequel has just come out or is about to come out. If I hate it, at least I'm not alone. So there's really no losing here, and yeah, this is a book that I'm definitely going to still be reading in 2022. Next up, a book that is also on my October TBR. If you haven't seen that video, I will leave it up in the cards and down in the description. And that is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. My boyfriend bought this book for me, and I'm very grateful for that because, first of all, the cover is amazing. We've talked about that. I've also showed it in a recent book haul, but I'm very excited about this book because this has been getting some amazing reviews. It's about two lifelong friends that start like a video game together, and it gets a really big cult following and they get really, really famous. And I'm not sure if it's about love. I'm not sure if it's about unrequited love. I don't think it's a romance per se. I'm really not sure what happens, but the reviews have been incredible. This book has been killing it in terms of people raving about it and giving 5 stars. I want to give it 5 stars. I want to be one of those people. So this is on my October TBR. Will I get it? Will I get to it this month? I hope so. It's already half of the month is done, and I haven't been doing too great reading wise, but I am very excited about it. So let's see how this one goes. I hope that I'll still manage to read it this month, but if I don't, definitely until the end of the year. Then I have a book that has been popular for a few years. It has recently become even more popular, and that is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I tried reading An Enchantment of Ravens by this author. I didn't get very far. It wasn't like a hateful DNF. I just lost interest in it and I didn't continue on. You've seen this book around this year because Hannah from A Clockwork Reader has just recently read it, and she got a lot of people that hadn't read it before to read it now. And I am one of those people. I am one of those people. I haven't read this book, obviously, and I really, really want to. It's about, oh my god, what is it about? Let me think this through. I know it's about a girl in a fantasy setting. This is a fantasy book, and I know that she has a big, big library with books that can talk, and she gets into adventures. That's all I know. I honestly don't want to know anything else. This is kind of where I want to leave it. It sounds great. I know it does have some mixed reviews, so it's not one of those books that everyone loved, but I'm hoping I'll be one of the people that loved it because it does sound like a cute, cozy book, you know, some adventures with books that can talk. It sounds good. I hope I like it because it does sound great, and I hope that I can read it. I've been looking for a physical copy of this one secondhand, and I haven't had much luck yet, but hopefully I can figure that out and I can buy the physical book. Yeah, this is definitely one that I do want to get to. The 4th book on this list that I want to read is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Celine Tan. This is a book that came out earlier this year. It is a book that has been on a few TBRs of mine because I never stick to those, so good for me. And I'll finally be reading it, okay? I'm doing it, I'm reading it. It's very long. I think it's about like almost 500 pages, and a lot of people say that by the halfway point they do want to DNF it, but that the second part gets so good that most people end up giving it 4 or 5 stars. It sounds very interesting. It's about the daughter of the moon goddess, and it's an old Chinese folklore story, and I think that her mother, something happens to the moon goddess and the daughter gets dragged down to earth, and there's romance, and I don't know, it sounds good. The reviews have been great. There's also a sequel coming out. Did it come out already? No, that can't be. I don't know if it came out already, but there's a sequel coming sometime in the future, or maybe it has already come out and I just don't know it, but it sounds good. Let me know if you've read it, because it does scare me a little bit that the first half is so boring that people want to DNF it. But if I do feel that way, I think I'm going to try my best to power through, because a lot of people say power through. Kayla from Books and Lala, I always say it wrong. She really loved it, and she's not usually a fantasy person, so that's more all the reason for me to like it. Then, coming back to my physical books and also to dark academia, I have a Vita Nostra. This is by Marina and Sergei Dyachenko, and it was translated by Julia Matov-Hersey, and this is a Russian book. It's a dark academia book. I'm actually not sure if it has any fantasy threads into it. I'm not sure if it has fantasy vibes or if it's just a straight up dark academia but in real life. So let me check. Okay, yeah, I think that this, yeah, it has a complex blend of adventure, magic, science, and philosophy, expressed through a distinctly Russian voice. This astonishing story will transport the reader to a place far beyond imagining. It's about this girl named Sasha, and she meets someone that has a task for her, and she has to go to this special school. And what it says here is that the school uses terror and coercion to keep students in line. Should they transgress at all, their families pay a terrible price. So this is a dark academia book. Oh my god, the font is so small. Holy shit. Okay. And this book is not small either. This is 400 pages, but this font is so tiny that I think it probably has more. I don't know. I've heard good things about it, but it's still not a very... I'm not sure if I'm going to be wrong about this, but I don't think it's very popular yet. At least it hasn't grown to the dimension of If We Were Villains or The Secret History or even The Atlas Six. So it's popular, but it's not so popular that I have hopes that I'll give it 5 stars. But I hope I do, obviously. But it sounds good, and it sounds a little bit more dark than maybe some other dark academia books. So I'm excited about this one. Then in other genres, I also have Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I had saved on SCRIBD her other book, which was Salt Slow, and I think it's a collection of short stories, so I'm not sure what the overall theme of that one is, but it did sound very interesting. And now she came out with this new one called Our Wives Under the Sea, and it has been also getting some very, very good reviews. It's a horror book. It's a very unsettling book about... It's also queer horror, which is amazing. And it's about this couple, and one of the wives has to go on this submarine underwater mission. And when she comes back, she's a totally different person. And the other half of the couple, the other lady, who's, I don't know any of the names yet, but the other one has been finding it very strange. And she has been noticing that her partner is not the same anymore. And so we have this dual perspective of what happened on the mission and all the unsettling vibes of being underwater and being on that submarine. And then we also have a perspective of what happened after the mission, and now that her partner is acting super weird. And I think that some people don't really like that it has an open ending. I think that not a lot of the unsettling elements are explained, which can be a turn off for some readers. Personally, that usually doesn't bother me, I think. But it's just a book that I'm excited to get to, because I like that idea of someone going on some kind of trip and coming back and they are not the same anymore. And like, are they the same person? Were they switched? It's just a very unsettling idea that I love, and so it made me very excited to read this specific horror book. Next up, also in the horror genre, we have Moon of the Crusted Snow by Street Rice. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but this is a book set in a Native American tribe, and there is a huge blackout and it turns into a dark survival story. I think that's the idea I got from it. If that is right, it does sound good, and I always want to read more diversely. I think horror is a good genre to explore in various different cultures, because there's a lot of the idea of folklore and specific things in each culture that are scary and horrifying. And I think that exploring that idea through different identities and different cultures and diverse horror is one of my favorite things, because I think it's a very interesting way to explore those cultural differences. And so I'm very excited to read this one. I haven't read a lot of survival stories actually, but if I like it, I'll be definitely looking for more dark survival stories. And the final book in this horror category will be All Is Well by Mona Awad. Now, this book has come out last year. The hype has died down a little bit, but I did love Bunny by this author, not as much as some other people did. I only gave it 4 stars, but it was still a very solid read. And I've been curious about what this author could do next, and this was her next book. So I'm very excited about this one. It's about a professor that suffers with chronic illness and chronic pain, and she is, I think, a theater professor. I think she has something to do with plays and theater. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. And she's been putting on a play by Shakespeare, and I think that either she turns against her students or her students turn against her. And so it's a very, also, I guess, dark academia story. And it is more of a thriller, I think. I'm not sure if it's a thriller or a horror book. I'm excited to get to it either way. As I said, I'm looking forward to seeing what this author does next, because I did enjoy Bunny and it was a very original and fresh story, so I'm definitely excited for this one. And one of the last 2 books on this list is also a book that I have physically with me, and that is The Once and Future Witches by Alexi Harrow. I was also supposed to read this in a TBR somewhere along the line and I didn't. It doesn't look like much because it's a small paperback, but it is chunky. Like, this is a chunky book. This is over 500 pages, so it is a chunky book. But this is the time for witches. We are in October, November, all of that. It's the witchy time of the year. And I haven't read too many books about witches, which is very shocking to me. And I thought that I could do a vlog of me reading witchy books for a week, or reading 3 or 5 witchy books. So let me know if you'd be interested in that, and I would definitely include this one because I do already own it. And I've heard a lot about Alexi Harrow. She's the author of 10,000 Doors of January, which I haven't read. But she's a very popular author. They say that the writing is very literary, it's very flowery, it's beautiful. So I'm excited to give this one a try. And it also has an element that I love, and it is that it mixes real history with a fantasy setting. And so this book is about the suffragist movement in the UK, but it also has the elements of, I mean, is it the UK or is it the United States? I have no idea. It's either one of those, but it's about the suffragist movement in one of those countries, and it also mixes in the fact that they are witches. So mixing in fantasy with real history. I'm very interested in the concept, but it is a big one. So, and the last book that I have on this list is Nightcrawling by Layla Motley. This book was recommended to me by Dee over at Heron's Corner. I mean, not to me directly, but she just recommended this book all around. And it's about this girl, I'm sorry, I don't know names of anyone, but it's about this girl, and she lives in a neighborhood and she decides to start nightcrawling. I think it's a contemporary story. I don't know if there's any other, I think it has some darker elements to it, but she decides to start nightcrawling and she witnesses something horrifying, a big scandal in the police department. And I think that is all that I know. If I'm wrong about anything, I'm so sorry. Sometimes all these synopses, like, they just mix in my head and I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. But I know that this is a book that has been raved about a lot. It won some sort of prize this year as well, though I can't recall what prize that was. But it is a book that I'm very excited to read. I think it's a debut author, which is also amazing because I do always want to support debut authors, and Dee always has the best recommendations. If you aren't subscribed to her already, you should be. And she recommended this one and I fully trust her recommendation, so I will be reading it. Okay, and also an honorable mention to The Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Slocumb. This was a book that was recommended by Casey over at Casey Can Read. She also has some good recommendations. Most of the times we do align in our taste in books, and she recommended this one. It was one of her favorite books of the year so far, if not her favorite, and it just sounds amazing. It's about a Black classical musician, and his family heirloom is a violin, and he loves to play it, and he's very, very good at it, but it is stolen, and it's like this whole conspiracy that goes beyond just petty theft. And so I am very excited to read this book. The reviews are incredible, not only by Casey, but by other readers on Goodreads. And so I love books that have mystery, crime, with some more social commentary in between. It sounds incredible, and I will probably be reading it. But yeah, I could only pick 10 books, but this is the honorable mention. And if you aren't subscribed to Casey, you should be. Hello, what are you doing? Okay, so that's the list of the 11 books that I'm hoping to read before the end of the year. I will hold myself accountable, and we will do a video next year to see how I did. I'm not sure if I'm going to do very well, but I'll try my hardest, okay? I will. And as you may have noticed, I didn't include any sequels here, because if I included just sequels, we would be here all day and I would have a 20 or 30 book list. So I'm not going to do that. I tried to include what I think are mostly standalones, though I'm not sure if that's true. But yeah, I didn't include sequels of any kind. I tried to not include starts of series, but I probably did somewhere. And yeah, this is the books that I'm hoping to get through the end of the year. Let's see how I do. Let me know which book you're most excited to read before the end of the year. Let me know if you've read any of these books, any opinions that you have on them, any that you think I should include in this list, and any if you think I should take out of this list. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content, and I'll see you in my next video. I hope you have a nice day, and always remember that life is worth reading.